Why, hello everybody, how are you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge, in particular, a Warframe survival challenge, and even more in particular, an Excalibur Umbra survival challenge. That's right. No big over-the-top challenge today. No what will this character do with all of these different competing factions and this universe as a whole. No, it's just one dude with a sword. Can these dudes with swords beat this dude with a sword? It's super simple. We're going to tactics, combat style, powers, general personality and characterization if it's relevant. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, just the way I like it. But I'm wasting up your time. Let's get started. First things first, I gotta tell you a little bit about Excalibur Umbra, everything that you need to know from characterization to personality to abilities and, all that jazz. But before we start that, let me actually tell you why I chose Excalibur Umbra, because a lot of people are probably not even gonna know what the fuck Excalibur Umbra is or what the whole Umbra thing is all about. Basically, in the Warframe universe, there are different variations of Warframes. Warframe Excalibur has 4 different variations. You have the original Excalibur, which we know virtually nothing about. The only thing we know is that it has a warrior spirit, and he was the first Warframe to ever exist. Not a whole lot to go on. We also have the Excalibur that we play as in the actual game, who is just an empty shell being controlled by a Tenno. A Tenno's a whole thing, I'll explain it later. Then you have Excalibur Prime, which is the exact same thing. It's just an empty shell being controlled by a Tenno, but it's stronger. And then finally you have Excalibur Umbra, which is the only version of Excalibur that is an actual 3-dimensional character with a backstory and a character arc that comes to a solid conclusion. So, I mean, it's obvious which one I'm going to choose. Also, Excalibur Umbra has the same strength level as Excalibur Prime, just making it a better version of Excalibur all around. So, yeah, I mean, pretty obvious who I'm picking. So a long time ago, there was this unnamed soldier for the Dax Empire who was hurt and sitting in a hospital. While he's sitting there minding his own business, this guy named Ballas shows up. Ballas is like a whole thing. He's the dude that's responsible for the creation of the Warframes. He's a complete fucking asshole. Just overall not a good dude. Anyway, he shows up, sits down in front of this unnamed soldier and challenges him to a game. What the game is isn't really important. One player has little white pieces, the other player has little black pieces. You gotta try to take the other people's pieces. No, it's not fucking checkers. It's different, but it's similar enough. We'll just fucking call it checkers. Why not? It's not. It's more like that Japanese game with the little rocks. You know what I'm talking about? Doesn't matter. Anyway, they start playing this game, and Ballas tells the soldier that every piece that he loses in this game, Ballas is going to kill a member of his family. They play game after game after game. They play like 3 or 4 games. They just keep going. And little by little, all of Ballas's family members start dropping dead. Finally, when the last game is played, this soldier starts feeling really weird, and his arms he starts having trouble controlling his arms, and his vision gets all weird. He's like, what's going on? And Ballas tells him that at the beginning, before they started playing the game, he actually infected him with a virus, and it took that long for the virus to actually take hold. And it did. It started to mutate him and turn him into this not human being. A not human being that we refer to as Warframes. He became Excalibur Umbra, and the first thing that Ballas told him to do after he became Excalibur Umbra was to kill his own son, who was coming into the room to visit him at the time. The soldier was utterly horrified to realize that he could not deny this order, and did it. From this point on, Ballas took control of Excalibur. I'm not going to call him Excalibur Umbra every time. You know who I'm talking about. He took control of Excalibur and basically forced him to do a bunch of horrifying shit. And the entire time he was doing this, just to fuck with him, Ballas forces him in his mind to constantly relive him killing his son. It's like this constant tape that just keeps replaying over and over in his head for years and years and years. This goes on for quite some time until Excalibur eventually just straight up gets killed. And that's it. It's just a really horrible, really tragic story that ends completely hopeless. Where this dude's whole family is wiped out, he was enslaved and then mentally tortured until he eventually died obeying the orders of this guy who murdered his whole family. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Years and years passed, and then eventually one of the Tenno decided to build a new Warframe, and this is where I gotta kind of a little bit tell you what a Tenno is. I'm not gonna go into the whole backstory. Basically, there were a bunch of kids that went out into the void and they got a bunch of superpowers. The general gist of the game and what you do is that you're not actually playing as a Warframe. You're playing as a Tenno, and the Tenno use psychic powers to pilot the Warframe, who originally the Warframe were just people who were infected and transformed into like meat puppets that were then controlled against their will by the Tenno. But now at this point, most of them are dead or doing something else, and they're not really controlled by the Tenno anymore. But now every single Warframe that you play as is actually a copy. It's just an empty shell of a being that is not a clone. It's like they rebuilt the Warframes based on previous Warframes. It's like a whole thing. Basically, you're a psychic superpowered child who is piloting a meat puppet that's a clone of a previous superpowered being. Anyway, point is, one of the Tenno built another Warframe that was an Excalibur Umbra design, and for whatever reason, something that's not supposed to happen because it should just be an empty shell, the consciousness of the original Excalibur Umbra was in this newly built Warframe. This is not supposed to happen. After Excalibur was rebuilt, the first thing he did was attack the Tenno who built him, knocking him out and then escaping from the ship. Because for the first time since Excalibur sat in a hospital bed, he was completely in control of his own actions and thoughts. And all he wanted to do is go after and kill Ballas, which is super understandable. The story continues from there, and the Tenno starts to go into the mind of Excalibur Umbra and start reading all of his thoughts and seeing his memories, and comes to the conclusion that they can team up against Ballas. And once they do and defeat Ballas, Excalibur finds peace, and it's all nice. It's like this tragic story that kind of turned around to have kind of a pseudo good ending. And the story ends with Excalibur choosing willfully to go with the Tenno and allow the Tenno to pilot his body. However, he is still conscious in there, and he's still aware of what's going on and kind of controls his own actions to a degree as well. As for what Excalibur is actually capable of doing in terms of his, physical abilities and powers and all that, he is directly stated in the lore to be the most skilled swordsman out of any of the Warframes in all of existence. This is actually shown in lore as well as gameplay, as his passive ability in gameplay is that he gets a 10% bonus to both speed and strength whenever using a sword. He's also easily one of the fastest Warframes in lore, as it is straight up shown and stated that he moves so fast that many of the other Warframes just straight up can't see him moving. This is particularly impressive considering that literally every single Warframe, including the absolute slowest ones, are capable of deflecting an entire room of dudes all firing automatic weapons at you and all of these projectiles flying at you at hypersonic speeds, and literally every single Warframe can just deflect all of them as a casual feat. In order for Excalibur to be so fast that those characters can't see him, he'd have to be moving pretty fucking fast. While I certainly wouldn't say he's the fastest Warframe, characters like Gauss and arguably Volt are definitely faster than he is. He's certainly up there and easily arguable of being top 5 fastest Warframes. Strength is a little bit harder to narrow down, seeing as all the Warframes has vast different levels of power, and we can't really look at the absolute strongest Warframes and what they're capable of doing and just immediately put that on Excalibur. Excalibur's feats aren't really strength related. They're all skill and swordsman like related. Like, we never see him just chuck a tank or anything like that. He's capable of fighting giant monsters and huge technological marvels like giant robots and huge sentinels and very large machines of death, but he never just like chucks them. So it's kind of hard to see what his actual strength is. However, there is nothing in the game that he isn't capable of fighting against, including the absolute strongest of Warframes like Rhino, who is so strong that his stomp can stop time. I don't know what that means. A lot of people like to look at Atlas when they talk about Warframe strength levels because Atlas was capable of destroying an asteroid that was heading towards Earth. However, I think that this is kind of a bullshit feat, really. That's not even a strength feat. People like to forget all the surrounding context that allowed that feat to happen. Atlas had help, for instance, and the fact that Atlas didn't actually destroy the meteor just by punching it, but he actually looked for the weaknesses in the meteor, and using the help of these other people went and sort of started sending vibrations through the weak points. But also the fact that Atlas is a geomancer, his literal power is controlling rock. So this is basically an unusable feat, and you can't properly attribute it to any other character, even characters who are equally, if not more, powerful than Atlas. Like, Rhino is probably the strongest Warframe. You cannot say that Rhino would just punch that asteroid and blow it up into little pieces just because Atlas was able to destroy it, because, again, Rhino's not a geomancer. So it's like, Atlas is literally the only Warframe that could possibly do that, and it had nothing to do with his strength level. It had to do with his geomancy powers. So strength is very hard to rate here. Basically, every Warframe is capable of punching through the hulls of ships and ripping apart metal with their bare hands and lifting heavy objects. But as to how heavy or how hard any of this shit is, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. In terms of abilities, Excalibur doesn't actually have that many, but the ones he does have are really good. He has his area of effect Warcry Explosion of Light ability, but it's not just a Warcry. Not only does it stun every single enemy in the area, including robot and AI enemies, meaning that this is very clearly not like a fear manipulation situation. It just kind of stuns everyone, but it's also capable of taking away any resistances that the character's built up. Like, the Sentinels are capable of resisting basically anything you do to them. That's what makes them so difficult to deal with. And yet this Warcry is capable of stripping a Sentinel of all its resistances as if it's like a fucking newborn, and it didn't spend several hundred years building up resistances to all kinds of crazy attack types. He has this stupidly fast dash slice ability, This is the ability I was talking about that characters can't actually see him moving. He literally just dashes towards whole groups of enemies and slices them all down without anyone even really being able to register that they were being attacked in the first place. He has this ability where he stabs his sword in the ground and then it creates a bunch of spectral swords that appear directly where characters are. Like every character around him just has a spectral sword appear near them, and that spectral sword skewers them, basically being a one-hit kill on any enemy that can't survive being stabbed through the fucking chest with a sword. And lastly, his most powerful ability is Exalted Blade. I've talked about this in the past. He summons a blade that is made of light, and it's super powerful and basically indestructible, and he goes around slicing dudes up. Every time he slices the sword, it creates this wave attack that travels pretty far and slices through everything in the area. The thing that makes this so good, and that I think way too many people disregard, is the fact that it has unlimited pass-through. So pass-through in the game, it's not only a game mechanic, it's also a lore-based thing. Basically, every character and object in the game has its own pass-through rating. Every weapon also has its own pass-through rating. Let's say that I have a sword that has 50 pass-through, and then there's a wall here, and this wall has 40 pass-through. If I hit it with my sword's gonna go through that wall and hit whatever's behind it. If that wall has 20 pass-through, and there's a guy behind it that has 20 pass-through, and then I hit it with my sword or fire my gun at it, I will then go through both layers and hit whatever the third object is behind them. That's how the pass-through works. The thing that's so cool about the Exalted Blade is it has unlimited pass-through. It essentially completely negates all forms of durability and just continuously travels forever until that beam dissipates, which it does dissipate after a while. It's not just like an unlimited slash thing. You'd use the slash, it shoots a wave. The wave is at its strongest on contact and then gets weaker and weaker as it flies away from you and then eventually just kind of disappears. But it doesn't matter how weak it is because it's literally going to phase through every object no matter what comes in front of it because, again, it has unlimited pass-through. Now, whether you want to call this straight up durability negation or some kind of form of phasing through objects, it doesn't matter. Point is, unless you have something very specific, this sword's probably going to kill you in one hit. Outside of that, he's got all the stuff that every other Warframe has. The crazy number of weapons, of which there's got to be like 600-700 by now. There's all kinds. There's a weapon that fires a black hole. There's a weapon that fires this blue energy beam that stops molecules on contact, which kind of acts as a freeze weapon, but it's not just freeze because it literally states that it like stops the molecules on contact. There's like one that shoots a bunch of little spheres that basically microwaves your enemies. It's like a giant microwave beam thing, but not a beam. It's like weird like fucking rave circles, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, he's got a bunch of guns. They all got a bunch of different crazy effects. He also has an arc wing, which is just a jetpack. That's it. He just allows him to fly around really fast and hit people. There doesn't seem to be any real limit of how long he can fly or use it, so he just has flight. Just call it flight. Just call it what it is. And that's it. That's basically everything you need to know. If there's anything else, I'm sure I'll say it while the video's going. But let's get on to the actual challengers, shall we? First up on the chopping block, we have Raiden or Raiden, however you want to pronounce it, from the Metal Gear Solid series. And I know it seems odd that somebody as incredibly skilled and powerful and amazing as Raiden is first on this list. Do not fret. That is not because Raiden sucks. That is because once again, I have graced you with a really badass list, and Excalibur is going to have trouble in basically every single one of these matchups. But I do think that Raiden loses this one, and the main reasons for that, well, okay, let's go over what he can do first, right? There's basically 3 things Raiden's got going for him. He's got more stuff than this, but it's really not that important, not gonna help him at all. The main things he has is his incredible strength, incredible speed, and that fucking sword that can basically cut through anything, right? Those are really gonna be the only things that Excalibur's gonna have trouble with. He also has grenades and guns and all this different other kind of stuff, but that's not gonna do anything to Excalibur. It's just like super less advanced weapons than what Excalibur already has. So it's mainly gonna be these 3 things. In terms of strength, there's no debate. Raiden is significantly stronger than Excalibur. He fucking casually breakdances while swinging 2 giant mechs through the air in a circle around him. There's nothing Excalibur has that even comes close to that. So easily he wins in strength. In speed, they're basically identical. Like, I know people like to look at Raiden's blade mode and just act like that's his normal speed. Like, oh, this is how fast he can always go. No, it isn't. It's very clearly shown in the game that blade mode takes the power source that Raiden has and he can run out of it, and he runs out of it very fast. He can actually only use it for a fraction of a second before it just fucking goes away. And then he can't do it anymore. And when he doesn't have it, he's nowhere near as fast. I mean, he's still really fast, don't get me wrong. He's still deflecting bullets and watching rockets fly through the air and slow motion and doing basically all the same shit that Excalibur can do. But to act like his base speed is just blade mode, that's not true at all. And when we look over at Excalibur, it's kind of the same situation, right? Yeah, normally he's got this sort of level of speed, all the same shit I kind of just said for Raiden. He does have his dashing slice ability that makes him so fast that other Warframe can't even see him moving, but once again, that requires energy for him to use. So basically what you have are two characters who are very close in speed, who can then enhance their speed for a very short period of time using an energy source where their enhanced speed is also kind of similar in speed. So speed-wise, there's no clear victor here. The place where there is a clear victor, and the reason why I think Raiden's gonna get fucked up, is because his sword is gonna basically be useless here. A lot of people like to talk about Raiden's high-frequency blade as if it can just cut through anything, kind of like how I said earlier, but that's not true. It actually is specifically stated and described in the game as being able to cut through metal, and specifically different types of metal. It's designed to be a metal kryptonite. It vibrates, and the vibrations disrupt metal molecules. To things that are not metal like armor or swords, it's just a normal fucking sword. It's a very hard sword, it's not easy to break, but it is just a sword. The reason why I'm saying Excalibur will win is because his sword isn't made out of metal. His sword is made out of pure light. And unlike Raiden's sword that really only cuts like that through metal, and by the way, not even all metal, as it's shown towards the end of the game that he tries to use it on the nanobites that Senator Armstrong has, and he's actually able to block it even though those are metal. He does get a better sword that is shown being able to cut through the nanobots, but the point is that these types of swords have very clear limits. The Exalted Blade that Excalibur uses doesn't have any clear limits. It's made out of pure light, so it's not going to be chopped in half by the high frequency blade, and it completely negates durability and phases through all defenses, which means not only will Raiden's sword be done, but Raiden himself will be done, and it'll likely be in 1 or 2 hits. It's not going to take a whole lot for him to lose. Really, the only way Raiden's going to win is if he beats Excalibur before Excalibur could pull out the Exalted Blade, which is unlikely given how similar their speed levels are. Once Raiden is capable of cutting through Excalibur's normal sword, which it will be able to do because that sword will most likely be made out of metal, Excalibur will immediately pull out the Exalted Blade, and then the fucking fight's over. That doesn't even include all the crazy guns that Excalibur has, as well as the Archwing that will allow him to fly, so he can actually be out of reach of Raiden and just fire from far away. I'm not really leaning on that because this is like a sword fight, that's the whole point, but that is an option for Excalibur where it is not for Raiden. Overall, Excalibur's got too much going for him that Raiden doesn't, and yeah, the Exalted Blade basically wins this for him hands down pretty easily. High frequency blade just has way too many limitations comparatively. And also, I don't really want to pull this out too much because I'm going to be pulling it out in the next section, but killing Raiden means Raiden's dead. Raiden killing Excalibur doesn't necessarily mean that Excalibur's dead. He can just throw his consciousness into another Excalibur Umbra, of which there are millions of across the entire Warframe universe. So yeah, now I'm not going to say this is one-sided, but this would be like Excalibur fighting like a mini-boss or something. It's not going to be that difficult. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, join the membership, you get exclusive access to videos that nobody else can watch. And don't forget to check the pinned comment down below for a link to the Discord, as well as my second channel where I have all kinds of different videos, including a review of the new Superman movie. Go check that out. Probably have a spoiler discussion of the new Superman movie later on this week. I don't know, we'll see. Depends on what the feedback of the video is. I'm not really sure yet. But are you tired of this ad? So am I. Let's get back to the video. Next up on the list, we have Lucius the Eternal from Warhammer 40k. No point in diddling about here. Lucius cannot defeat Excalibur in a fight straight up. Basically, everything he has is worse. He's slower, he's weaker, his weapons aren't as good, his armor isn't as good, like literally nothing. His absolute fastest feat, which isn't even his feat, belongs to another Space Marine who there is a statement where he basically deflects a bullet in mid-air after it being fired at him at very, very close range. Normally, I don't like people pulling at this feat because it's just one very high-level Space Marine, and people like to use this feat to describe the speed of all Space Marines, which that's clearly not the case. Certain Space Marines are faster and better than other Space Marines, but I think Lucius is actually fair to compare since he's like one of the better swordsmen and one of the more powerful Space Marines. I do think it's a fair comparison. But deflecting one bolter round at point blank range does not in anywhere come near the shit that Excalibur can do. He's way too slow. Same thing goes for strength. His weapons fucking suck. There isn't a single weapon that he can use that Excalibur can't deal with. I mean, even his power weapons are basically just a shittier version of Raiden's sword, because Raiden's sword can actually split the molecules immediately, and the power weapons from 40k weaken the bonds with each strike, but do not actually split them. We actually see examples of characters hitting tanks and armor and shit many times with power weapons to kind of slowly get through them. It's not like an instant slicing through the molecules, even though that's what people like to pretend it is. Lucius does have things like personal energy force fields that go around him, but again, Exalted Blade can just phase right through that and kill him immediately anyway, so there's really no point in that. Really, the only question that there is here is what's gonna happen when Lucius fucking dies. That's the main question. I think people who know Warhammer 40k knows exactly why I'm asking it. Basically, Lucius has the ability that anyone who kills him, if that person feels any amount of pride, he will then replace them. That person who killed him will slowly transform into Lucius, and then when he becomes Lucius, Lucius is back. Like, his consciousness retakes over that body, and you just become Lucius, basically. Lucius the Eternal is eternal because you can't kill him. If you kill him and you feel pride about it, which people generally feel pride about things, he comes back. And the restrictions of this ability are super, super loose. Like, at one point he was killed by a bomb, but the person who set the bomb was already dead, so he couldn't replace him. So what he did was he replaced the factory worker on the other side of the solar system that built the bomb and felt pride for building a bomb, because, like, pride in actually building it. Even though he didn't actually kill Lucius, he just made the bomb. Lucius took him over instead of the dude who actually killed him. So, like I said, pretty fucking loose terminology of pride of killing the person. Like, it doesn't really necessarily need to be pride of killing the person. He can go down, like, the family tree of pride to find somebody and replace that person instead. Some people like to bring up the fact that he once replaced a Necron as, like, evidence that he could take over people who even aren't capable of feeling pride. I don't get this at all, because Necrons are completely capable of feeling pride. Like, the one thing that's interesting about that fact is that Necrons don't have souls, and how Lucius's whole take over the body thing works is that he replaces them and then their soul is eaten by his armor. So he can take over Necrons even though they don't have souls, and his armor doesn't have a soul to consume. That's cool, but having a soul was never considered a prerequisite for the power. It was always feeling pride, and Necrons can absolutely feel pride. Some of them can't. Like, some of the drones can't feel emotions, but most of the ones that are actually worth a damn do actually have personalities and emotions. We see it all the time, so I don't really see how that's a benefit in any way. So on to the question of whether or not Lucius can actually take over Excalibur. I think the answer to that is a pretty obvious no. Excalibur was forced by Ballas to not only kill his own son, but then to cause all manner of atrocities after that, slaughtering a bunch of innocent people and whoever the fuck Ballas wanted him to slaughter. And it's just kind of gotten to the point that he doesn't really want to do this anymore. Like, he doesn't feel pride in killing people. Every time he goes and kills people, it just reminds him of what he did to his son. There's no pride there. Now he does what he does for just the good of the universe as a whole, but he doesn't like it. So Lucius won't be able to replace him. Now, that doesn't mean that Lucius will be dead permanently. He'll probably take over the Tenno that is kind of pseudo-piloting him at this point. The way it works is that the Tenno normally pilot the Warframes. The Warframes are just empty shells, and they're not in the same location. They're off somewhere else, piloting them from like a different location. But the Warframes are basically just robot suits that aren't actually robot suits, that are like people. But because Excalibur Umbra actually has a consciousness, it kind of works a little bit differently. It's not just the Tenno piloting him. It is the Tenno, but Excalibur is also very much so there, and they're kind of two consciousnesses both being in control of this one body. They have this sort of symbiotic relationship with one another. And this is also to some extent shown in the gameplay as well. There's this thing called operator mode where you can like be a Tenno and jump out of your Warframe and fight in your Tenno form. And the Warframe usually just fucking stands there because it's just a Warframe, because there's nothing there. It's just like a suit basically. But when you do this with Excalibur Umbra, it just goes around and starts fighting and continues because there's still a consciousness in there. You just were one conscious that left, and the other consciousness is still there, and you get it. You get how it works. So technically, if Excalibur kills Lucius, Lucius will most likely go to the Tenno and control him. That would probably lead to Excalibur going after him again, since he actually owes the Tenno a great deal, since the Tenno helped free him in the first place. And then if Excalibur killed him again, he would probably take over, what, Ballas? Because Ballas was the one who created him in the first place, and Ballas is kind of, sort of, pseudo-immortal in a way. Like, he died once, and then I believe the Void brought him back to life. Ain't that the case? I don't know. Basically, it's just this infinite thing where you can just keep killing them over and over and over again, and Lucius just can't keep jumping into new bodies, but never quite jump into Excalibur's. And honestly, even if he does jump into Excalibur, Excalibur can then move his consciousness into another Warframe of the same type. So they're both immortal, and neither of them can ever die. Even Lucius's whole eating soul bullshit, like, oh, when he goes to take over Excalibur, his suit will eat the soul. Warframes don't have souls, so there's nothing to eat there. It's literally just the consciousness being hopped around. So yeah, you have two immortal beings who will basically fight forever, neither of which ever being capable of dying. However, if they do fight, Excalibur's winning every single time. So it's not going to be like an infinite fight where they keep killing each other. It's just going to be an infinite fight where Lucius keeps dying. Just forever. Never once being able to put down Excalibur. I will say it also greatly depends on what universe it happens in. Like, if Excalibur fights against Lucius in the Warhammer 40k universe, who's at fault for Lucius's death? Because now there's no connective tissue with Excalibur and anybody else. You can't blame Lucius's death on anyone but Excalibur at that point. And nobody from the Warhammer 40k universe like built Excalibur's sword or like gave him powers or brought him into existence. Literally the only person who caused Lucius's death is Excalibur, and he doesn't have pride. So I think you've actually killed Lucius at that point. This would work both ways, as if you had Excalibur die in the Warhammer 40k universe. There's no other Warframe, so he can't jump his consciousness to another body, so they would both have one life. But, you know, again, Excalibur's gonna win. And if you took them both and threw them in the Warframe universe, now it's definitely one-sided on Excalibur's part, because Slaanesh doesn't exist in the Warframe universe, meaning if Lucius dies, he literally won't be capable of taking over bodies, since he only has that power from Slaanesh. But yet, if somehow Lucius, by some miracle, is able to take out Excalibur, he could still jump into another Warframe. So you basically just stripped Lucius of his immortality. Any way you look at it, it looks like Excalibur has a way better chance of beating Lucius than the other way around. Well, Lucius doesn't have a chance of beating Excalibur, but Excalibur has a much higher chance of not getting possessed by fucking Lucius than Lucius does of being able to constantly body hop regardless of what universe they're in. So yeah, Excalibur wins. Next up, we have Vergil from fucking DMC. No! Oh, I'm so sick of going over this. Okay, I'm not touching on this again. Alright, I've gone over it. I've already explained it. Devil May Cry is not as strong as people think it is. The only reason why they think that is because they're leaving out massive context out of certain things. They're selectively forgetting very important details. They jump to massive conclusions based on the smallest statements. It is a fucking train wreck. No, this universe is not multiversal. It's not multiversal because there isn't a fucking multiverse in DMC. It's one universe. They had darkness and they had light, and they both existed in the same universe. Then some asshole came and built a fucking barrier separating the two. The darkness side became the demon world, and the light side became the human world. That's still one universe. If I come into your house and I build a wall in it, does it make it two houses? No, doesn't fucking make it two houses. This is the logic people use. They have shit like Argisax showing up, and everyone's like, oh, if Argisax comes in, he's gonna destroy the human world. Then they're like, oh, fucking universal, instantly. Really? How was he gonna destroy the universe? How long was it gonna take him? What was he gonna do? Was it passive? Was he gonna show up and blow up the fucking planet? Was he gonna turn it all into a wasteland? Was he gonna suck the souls out of all the mortals? What does destroy the human world mean, and how long was it gonna take? This all matters. Because apparently they were saying this shit in DMC 2, that Argisax was so ungodly powerful that just him showing up was gonna destroy the whole universe, even though Dante and Vergil are far more powerful than him now. And they have absolutely no problem existing in the universe. There are many different demons more powerful than Argisax that are perfectly okay existing in the universe. Nobody is able to defend any of this shit. There's like 100 more. I can go over all of them. I'm sure people are gonna go down in the comments and say a bunch more. I'm just gonna let you know, across all the videos I've done on this, I've covered all of them. There's nothing you're gonna type down there that I haven't already covered in the previous video. I've been over it. Not doing it again. So let's talk about what Vergil actually can do. He's pretty cool. You know, he can do some stuff. Dante, whose strength level is basically even with Vergil, was able to stop a punch from this giant white stone asshole bitch. They're fast enough that Dante and Vergil together in a split second can slice so accurately that they can chop every single raindrop in like a 15-foot radius around them during a heavy storm, and both Dante and Vergil together was able to chop down the Yggdrasil, which is a tree whose tree trunk is like the size of a fucking city. It's huge. And that's all their strongest stuff. Not everyone has to be fucking multiversal, people. It could be like just normal stuff. Everybody thinks they're hot shit down in the comment section, but nobody has been willing to show up during one of my debate streams to come challenge me on anything DMC. They haven't done it because they're scared. Look down at your fucking vaginas, you bitches. I know my DMC shit. Your fucking arguments don't hold up in court. The main two things that are really going to help out Vergil in this fight are the two things that help him out in pretty much every fight. The dude has an insane healing factor. He heals from basically everything. I mean, mean, we've seen Dante get literally sliced in half at the waist and he just healed immediately. Some people like to exaggerate the healing factor and compare it to shit like Deadpool and stuff. No, there's no evidence that they could survive having their head cut off or having a limb lost. Like, yes, Dante does get chopped in half, but his legs are still fucking there. Like, they're still attached. All it does is reattach itself. There's no evidence that if you chop him in half and then throw his torso off the side of a fucking cliff, that his torso can regrow legs. We've never seen anything like that. While it is true that Nero was able to regrow his arm back, Nero has completely different powers than Dante and Vergil does. His demon form looks different. His regen animation is completely different. And overall, his demon form just doesn't work like Dante's or Vergil's. I'm not saying that Dante and Vergil can't necessarily heal a limb, but I am saying they haven't fucking shown it. And there's not enough evidence for us to actually say that for sure, so I'm not gonna fucking say it. The other thing that everybody knows about Vergil, thing that makes him so good, is his sword, the Yamato. Basically a way better version of Raiden's sword that cuts through metal. This one just cuts through everything, including space. However, should be noted, there are some very clear limitations to this weapon. For one, we have never once in the entire history of DMC ever see him use this to cut through a weapon of an enemy that he's fighting against, even against weapons that are not demon-made weapons. You have an excuse of why I can't cut through shit like Dante's swords, right? Those are demon-made. Same with Nero. It's made out of special devices and magic. There is no reason why Yamato was not able to cut through the bazooka of Lady. That is just a normal fucking bazooka. The only thing that we can really say is that at that point he was out of demonic energy, because we know it requires demonic energy for him to use the abilities of his weapons. So if we take all this to account, can Excalibur defeat Vergil in a sword fight? He can, but I think it'll be a lot harder for him to beat him than the other way around. I think Vergil's way more likely to win. And the reason for that is really simple. The regen. It's not even so much Yamato's sword. Like, does it even matter that Yamato's sword can cut through space? Space isn't light. If Excalibur uses the Exalted Blade that is just made out of light that he just generates with his own energy, and he decides to clash blades with Yamato, are we even 100% sure of what exactly would happen to that sword? You can't say that it would cut the fucking top of the sword off because it's not solid. It doesn't follow the same rules. It literally negates durability and just passes through people and does damage. What does cutting light, something that doesn't have molecules and isn't solid, even fucking look like? Like, do you have a stick in your house or some kind of long pointy thing? All right, if you do, pick it up. All right, stand up, right? Lights on, right? You're not just sitting there in a fucking dark like a weird creeper, right? Okay. Swing that stick in the air. Did you swing it? Okay, congratulations. You just fucking cut through light. You swung a stick through light. Is the light still there? Yeah, it's still there because it's fucking light. That's how light works. I don't think it matters one way or the other if Yamato can cut through the Exalted Blade's light blade. It's not gonna make the light blade go away because it's fucking light. So what you have here are two super speedy, super strong characters with swords that completely negate durability that are constantly gonna be slicing each other up. The difference is one has really good regen and the other one has alright regen. The only real advantage I can give Excalibur kind of goes away from the challenge, which is a sword challenge, and just like let him utilize all of his guns, which I could let him utilize his guns and his jetpack and stuff, and that will definitely help. Like, he could just fly in the air and start fucking peppering shots down until he can wear down Vergil's healing factor, because his healing factor also uses demonic energy. Given enough time, yes, Vergil will run out of his healing abilities, and then you could just cut his fucking head off or blow him up or whatever you do, and that would successfully kill him. But then there's the whole issue of limited ammo, and yes, it's true that Vergil will eventually run out of demonic energy, but the likelihood of that running out before Excalibur's bullets run out is not likely at all. So really what you have here are two possible outcomes. Either one, Excalibur successfully basically plays with Vergil for a really long time, constantly hitting him over and over and over again and not getting hit by Vergil, and then eventually wearing him down to the point that he runs out of his demonic energy so that he can then behead him, chop him in half, do whatever he needs to do, and defeat Vergil that way. Or Vergil hits Excalibur once with one solid hit and immediately fucking kills him. Which one do you see being more likely? I would say it's probably more likely that Vergil's gonna win this, but it's not impossible that Excalibur does win if he's smart, if he utilizes his guns intelligently, and honestly, if he just outlasts him, because unlike Vergil, Excalibur actually has limitless stamina and can basically fight forever. He's never going to run out. And when he uses his more powerful abilities that require energy, his energy refuels a lot faster than Vergil's demonic energy. We've seen that when characters like Dante and Vergil use up all their demonic energy, it oftentimes takes hours for it to return, which is not the case for a Warframe. So if Excalibur plays a long game and can avoid being hit, he can overcome Vergil. It's just far less likely than Vergil overcoming him, if that makes any sense. Because in terms of physical ability, it's basically just Raiden all over again. They have similar speeds, although I would argue that Excalibur is a little bit faster, and Vergil has way superior strength, much like how Raiden did. But again, Excalibur is used to fighting against characters who have way superior strength, so that's not really anything new. So again, possible, but not likely. Vergil's healing factor is just like really fucking broken in fights like this. It's not fair. Take away the healing factor though, I'm not gonna do that because, you know, I mean, that is something he has. And Excalibur has a better chance of beating Vergil than the other way around. With the healing factor, Vergil fucking wins probably. I give it like a 30 or 25-ish% chance that Excalibur beats him. Yeah, that sounds about right. Last but certainly not least, we have Eve from Stellar Blade. And since we're getting to the end of the video, I'm not gonna waste your time. This bitch is fucking winning. She's winning easily. All of her stats are better than Excalibur's. She's a better sword fighter than Excalibur. She's better in basically every single way. And unlike DMC, where all this shit is like implied or twisted, or we're gonna like take this fucking environmental thing and kind of like try and bend it so that it means something that it clearly doesn't mean. No, in Stellar Blade, when this bitch dodges light, we see that shit. When she blows up an Atiba that's the size of a city, we see that shit. When she fights Tacky, who uses tachyon particles for her entire fighting style, which is why her name is Tacky, tachyon particles being particles that travel faster than light, we fucking see that shit, and it's clearly explained. It's not like Devil May Cry, where in the first game, Mundus made a pocket dimension, and then like in the boss fight, you're like flying towards him and he's flying backwards, and you see like stars kind of flying around, and you're like, okay, based on this, and like measuring the stars and where they're going, means this. It's like, bro, it's a pocket dimension. We don't know how big those stars are. We don't know how far away they are. We don't know how far they traveled. You don't know none of this shit. You're just making it up. People argue that location is Mundus creating a universe, and then when you beat him, the universe gets destroyed, which is proof that he's universal. First off, pocket dimensions aren't universes. Secondly, right after that, Dante has to escape an island from collapsing, and if the island collapses, you fucking die. Dante says in the story, if the island collapses and he hasn't left, he fucking dies. Yeah, he's totally fucking universal. Being killed by an island collapsing after you just killed a universal god super makes sense. No, it clearly doesn't make more sense that that's just a pocket dimension and he's not a fucking universal being. Makes way more sense that that island is just, I don't know, universe plus weighted when it falls on him. I don't fucking know. Let's get back to Eve. By the end of this game, Eve is no longer just like a badass energy absorbing robot. She's an energy absorbing robot that is also an Atiba who has adaptation abilities. So throughout the entire game, Eve goes around and taking the cores of other Eves, adding them to her own. When she does this, she acquires all of the skills, memories, knowledge, fighting style, and strength of the Eves that she takes the shit from and adds to her own. She even does this to characters like Tacky and Raven that are hundreds of times more powerful than other Eve models. With Tacky specifically, she literally copies the identical fighting style and starts using all of her powers. Like, it's very clear. Throughout the game, she does this dozens and dozens and dozens of times. By the end of the game, she fuses with the Alpha Natiba, the most powerful of all Natiba, who use a bunch of crazy like light powers and has control over other Natibas. And Natibas have really good adaptation abilities. We see throughout this game that you can fight a Natiba at a certain point, and then a couple hours later, you fight that exact same Natiba, and now all of a sudden it can fucking control lightning and shoot it from the sky and shit, which it couldn't do before. We see Natiba evolve to the point of being like a normal sized person to being the size of an entire city. The evolution potential is basically limitless for Natiba. So what you end up having here in this fight between Excalibur and Eve is a character who's faster, stronger, more skilled, and the reason why I'm saying that is because, again, she copies all the fighting style, skill, and knowledge of everyone she's absorbed, of which case she has done several dozen. Excalibur's skilled, but he's only one dude, who then becomes a Natiba that not only has regenerative abilities, but can also adapt to whatever Excalibur might want to do. Yeah, this is a wash. Eve fucking wins. Honestly, I'm kind of bummed out that there probably won't be a Stellar Blade 2, because the story is pretty much wrapped up by the end of the game, but at the end of the game, she becomes an Atiba, and what that means for the possible gameplay of a sequel is really interesting. We don't really get to play with her that much when she finally becomes the Elder Atiba. We play one scene where she takes on an entire army of Eves, who, by the way, all of which should be capable of dodging light speed attacks and stuff, because Eve herself is capable of doing it at the beginning of the game, and she fights literally hundreds of these people at the same time, the entire army, and they can't lay a hand on her. That's how fast and amazing she is. But I just think it'd be really cool, the mechanics that they can add into the game of her constantly adapting as she fights throughout the game. I don't know. It would be cool. I would like to see them continue the story, even though it's very unlikely because, I don't know, they just very clearly hit a stopping point by the end of the game. But yeah, no, this is pretty obvious. Eve wins. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. If you join the membership, you get access to exclusive videos that no one else gets. Also, remember to check the pinned comment down below. We have a link to the Discord as well as the second channel where I recently put a review of the new Superman movie, as well as some other videos on there. Go check it out. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?